Hello, everyone. This is Vernon again, talking about chasing time travelers. So here's where we are so far. I talked about the Davenport tablets. My theory is that the Davenport tablets were created by time travelers, American military time travelers, meaning that someone warned us about 9/11. You could argue that it was coincidental, but then the coincidence would be that someone told us that Twin Towers would fall on on September 11th at 41 degrees north latitude, where there's an island in the middle of a big river, and a guy would travel across the sky, and uh, there'd be a massive cremation, and there'd be this outstanding tree, the miracle of the sycamore, and so on. And then I started talking about, there's more to that. I just can't remember it right now to the Davenport part. But so then I started talking to you about the Mayan artifacts. And my basic theory is that the Yucatan Peninsula is a map of the heavens, that there are roughly 4,000 ancient temple cities in the Yucatan, most of them still unexcavated. And my theory is that those temple cities represent planets that have intelligent life. One of those planets is Earth, and Earth is captured in the form of two cities, two ancient Mayan temple cities. One is Chichen Itza, which is a few miles from Cancun, and one is Uxmal. I'm sorry. So Chichen Itza is a replica of the Western Hemisphere, and a map of the Western Hemisphere, and Uxmal is a map of Asia. One of the interesting things that I didn't mention before about Uxmal is when I went there and I looked at it and how things are lined up, I'm like, okay, so this is Asia. This certain part is China, but I couldn't figure out why there was no Great Wall. I'm like, why would they not put the Great Wall of China there if this map has landmarks? And then about 2 years later, there's this article that said, hey, we found this big giant wall, that has collapsed around a certain section of Uxmal. So I'm like, okay, there you go. That doesn't prove my theory. I've been trying to disprove my theory literally for the past 10 years. And I haven't been able to prove it, and I haven't been able to disprove it. All I'm offering is what I call supporting evidence. So now let's get to the next section. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. So then we went through Europe. We went through, let's see. So the map covered Ireland, St. George's Channel, England and Scotland. So England and Scotland was the Temple of the Big Tables. And then England was joined to the France structure with a little tiny wall, and which I am arguing represents the English Channel Tunnel. And that France showed us the World War II invasion of Germany to France. And then I showed you North Africa. Let's see. So we saw the Nile splitting in Egypt. We saw Forzaga Arch. Well, yeah, we saw the Yellow Nile. The Yellow Nile went from Egypt out west to Lake Chad, and we see in Chichen Itza there's this stone wall that's split right where Egypt would be. So it's the West Nile and the East Nile. And then there's and then there's the Yellow Nile, which went out west to on the Mayan map. It goes out west to the southern cenote of Estelok. So let's start. Let's do the Atlantic. So the Atlantic region, we'll talk in this section. We'll just talk about Iceland. The Mayas call Iceland the platform of Venus. There are different theories why. Here's my theory. If you look at this map by NASA, as you can see, Iceland sits in a unique little triangle carved out by the path of the sun. My theory is that they called it the platform of Venus because Iceland is the best place on Earth to watch the transit of Venus. The transit of Venus is when you can see Venus moving across the face of the sun roughly once every 60 years. And I think whoever created the map at Chichen Itza knew that. So here's the platform of Venus. As you can see on the side, there's like a sea serpent and there are fish. Here's a close-up of one of the fish. What they're telling us is that Iceland is surrounded by sea creatures. It's an island. Long time ago, this Sphinx was on top of the platform of Venus, and the head fell off, and someone stuck it back on for this photograph. As you can see, his hat is similar to the hat that the Mayan guy is wearing next to him, right? So my argument, my suspicion, is that both of those are sun hats. And as you can see, that sphinx or lion is laying on the ground like the way lions do when they're trying to cool off from the temperature of the earth. So I interpret this to mean that Iceland is going to get hot. I'm sorry, I'll say it differently. I interpret this to mean that at the time the map was created 1,000 years ago, they were telling us that Iceland was going to get hot at some point. Inside the temple that represents Iceland, they found these flying vipers. My theory is that those represent Air Force, modern planes. And one piece of evidence is not all these flying dragon snake things are identical. Some seem more powerful than others, like their rank or something. They also found this flag bearer, they call him, which is consistent with a military base. That's him on the ground there. And then they also found something very curious. Inside that temple, they found, what was it? It was either 183 or 182, I forget, of these, they call them cones. And those cones came in, some were red, some were painted blue. And my theory is that they weren't showing us just, some random cones. I think those things represented nuclear bombs for this reason. Everything else that I've seen on this map seems to mean something, and these things look like bombs. I'm arguing W-33 8-inch diameter nuclear warheads. So I checked online, and apparently around 1982, researchers found that through the Freedom of Information Act, that the United States had kept nuclear weapons in Iceland at Keflavik Air Force Base during the Cold War. And I think that's what they're showing us here. There are no other things like that that I've seen anywhere in Chichen Itza or in any other Mayan temple cities. Here's Keflavik Air Force Base on the left, and that's the map of Iceland on the right. So thanks for listening to parts 1 through 13. Hopefully you listened to all of them. And in the next part, in part 14, we're still going to be in the Atlantic, and we'll go to the Azores. And from the Azores, we'll go to the Americas. We'll make our first stop at Washington, D.C. But thanks again for listening to my video series.